Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to go first?
Sure. So what are the major differences between CBT and previous approaches reviewed? So what I kind of got from that question was that CBT really focuses on the current problems and kind of how to address from like this point moving forward, where a lot of the other approaches have focused on like understanding your past and how you were as a childhood, or how you were in your childhood and kind of issues that arose from there. And then also that CBT doesn't follow a specific approach or like step by step, even though some do. In general, it doesn't. Whereas the other therapies really focus on what they have like a laid out plan and like steps.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I also put that CBT, like you said, it focuses on like changing cognitions like thoughts, beliefs, and stuff like that, and your attitudes rather than just behavior. So I also feel like it's more collaborative,
Yeah.
goal oriented and stuff. And so it focuses more on like the present. I think you said that rather
Mm-hmm.
than like focusing on past histories. And so I thought that was really interesting.
Me
I
too.
think that it's also like it focuses identifying and modifying like dysfunctional thoughts and behaviors also. So yeah,
I don't think I have anything. Oh,
I think
yeah.
that one was like pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Okay, so for number two, what is the major difference between Beck's and Ellis's approach on CBT? So I put that the major difference between Beck and Ellis's approach is that I thought Beck focuses more on identifying and challenging irrational thoughts and beliefs, while Ellis emphasized on identifying and disputing the underlying irrational beliefs like themselves rather than just the thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
I think it said in our book also that yeah, Ellis views clients as having irrational thoughts, but Beck views the thoughts as too broad or inaccurate based
Mm-hmm.
on like rapid automatic maladaptive information.
Yeah. Um, yeah, one of the big things that I got from like the difference between Beck and Ellis was how they approach a situation. Whereas Ellis is more like confrontational. He like swears. He uses like the word irrational. Um, whereas Beck is more like kind, gentle, more like collaborative. He listens more and uses the word like maladaptive versus irrational. So
Yeah,
that's one of the biggest differences that I got from that.
I think they both have like really unique approaches to. So
Mm-hmm.
that was really interesting to see.
I like that they're like very similar. Like their approaches are very similar, but their like attitudes towards it are very different. And like that's probably the biggest like difference that even though they're similar, they
Yeah,
seem like more different just because of how they like approach the situation.
yeah, I don't think I have anything.
All right. If you had to have therapy from Beck or Ellis, who would you choose and why? I would choose Beck because I mean, as much as I would like to be someone who could just like hear it as it is, be like, you're thinking irrationally, you need to change it. I feel like um I would have like a hard time like accepting that. And so I feel like
Yeah,
Beck's more like kinder, gentle approach is definitely what I would need to be able to like process what he's saying, like reflect it back on myself and like accept it and then like work on it.
yeah. That's kind of like what I was thinking too. Honestly, I think that I would prefer Beck's approach also. I feel like it would just allow for more like a tailored examination and stuff
Mm-hmm.
to identifying like individual irrational thoughts and beliefs and stuff that contribute to specific problems. And I also think that just focusing on like situations would generate more personally relevant like insights.
Yeah, I agree.
So, although I feel like Ellis's style would be good too, but I don't know if it would be best fit for me.
Right. Yeah, I like his, yeah. I'm like not against the approach of like saying it how it is, like you're doing something wrong and need to fix it. I just couldn't handle it myself.
I could probably handle it to like a certain extent, but I feel
Right,
like
exactly.
I don't know.
I think one way it'd be easier is where Beck was more like let me listen to what you're saying. And I think for me, sometimes I have a really hard time like expressing what I'm actually feeling. And I almost feel like Ellis's approach would be like, no, this is what's wrong, like fix it. Like,
Yeah,
like that might be a little easier in that part. I don't have anything else to add to that.
no. Okay. So let's see. Number 4. So for this one, I thought this one was really interesting. I didn't know whether or not I had the correct thought process, but I
Me
thought
too.
that
So
I thought that Ellis would want Mary to like recognize or acknowledge that her anger is her own like reaction and just evaluation influenced by her beliefs and not just purely caused by like her husband's actions of forgetting their anniversary.
Mhm.
And so, by acknowledging she has the power over her like emotional response, so she could begin to examine whether her anger is justified or partly caused by irrational beliefs that she holds about the relationship and the expectations. And so, I feel like, recognizing is pretty much key into like the irrational evaluation. So, because we pretty much have control over our
right.
emotional reactions, and so rather than external events that cause our emotions. So
Yeah. That's pretty much the same thing I got. I wrote the quote, what was it? Not disturbed by things, but by the view which they take them. And it was, yeah, so it was like that something happens and it's how you view that, it's how you view what happened, that matters. Right. Yeah.
mhm.
And it was, so there was like the stimulus and the response, but there's something in the middle of that, and that's our the control that we have over the reaction. And so that's what I assumed was the part that was missing, was that middle piece of that Mary has control. Yes, she's upset. Yes, her husband forgot the anniversary and she's upset about it, but she's choosing to be upset about it. And it's like that middle piece that they would need to talk about, or that she would need to acknowledge before they could progress in therapy.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. Like you have to recognize that it's that you have the actual control before,
Mhm.
and so
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting concept. It's
yeah,
like something that we know, but it's something that I feel like I don't think about when I'm reacting to things that
yeah.
are like bothering me.
I feel like I'm like that too. I feel like I not until after it's passed that's like, oh, I could have just looked at it a different
Yeah.
way and stuff.
Like, oh,
Yeah,
I could have had total control of that situation and I didn't.
yeah. That's funny. Okay.
Let's see. Give an example of cognitive distortion you have. So for me, I have like really bad anxiety, and so a lot of times I like trick myself into believing that like I don't like connect well with people, or that like anytime something, or if I feel like somebody's off, I'll just be like, oh, they don't like me, even though obviously like rationally that's not the situation. I mean, obviously like not everyone likes everyone, but even like if my friends seem off, I'd be like, oh no, like they don't like me, I did something wrong. And so that's kind of my cognitive distortion, which I feel like it goes a lot with my anxiety. I always like question people, like people's uh opinions of me.
Yeah. I feel like I have two examples. I was out because I was like, I'm not too sure which one I should do. But my second one is pretty much like that, just kind of like worrying about what other people are thinking of me. And so my example was just like um at work, like let's say I mess up on something and it could be something really small, but I could think like, oh, like this was such a big screw up or something, or like so it just really makes me think like, oh, like I always mess up on everything, or I'm like incompetent of like this job or something. And I just pretty much like isolate the incident and it just becomes into this like endless pattern of just coming to conclusions and stuff over like my abilities and just, putting myself down over it. Or let's say like I get a bad test on a quiz, like I pretty harsh on myself on what I think on it.
Yeah, it's like the what is it? That's like theory of depression. It's like the negative evaluation of self, negative evaluation of the world, and the negative evaluation of the future. And I like have a lot of like the negative evaluation of self, which as he said is like the I suck. Yeah, that's what happens.
And it's really interesting that just like something so minor as like a critique can just, create like an immediate negative response to something, that you feel or you identify those thoughts,
Yeah.
as negative, and it's really interesting.
Yeah, I had to purchase a like training material for everyone on my team at work, and I like almost bought the wrong one. I didn't even buy the wrong one. I just like almost did. My manager was like, "Wait, that's the wrong one," and I was like, "Oh my goodness, I just suck at everything." And I
But
was like,
someone
"No,
else
it's like
did.
one tiny thing that I didn't even actually do wrong." Just my brain like convinces me that it's just everything.
Yeah, that's crazy. Oh, let's see. I feel like it's really like important when stuff like that happens. I mean, I say it like if it's easy and if I do it, but like I
Yeah,
feel like it's just easier to like take the time and just realize and just pause and just, evaluate like an alternative perspective and stuff rather than just being like swept up by the distress,
right.
which
Hmm.
could help prevent, emotional turmoil and stuff.
Yeah, I think that like thinking of alternative options is like a good approach to kind of getting past that.
Hmm. Yeah. So, anything else on that?
I don't think so.
No? Okay. I don't know how far we're on time. I didn't put on a timer.
I started a few minutes late. We were at like 7. We're at 7 right now, but I think I started at like 3 or 4 minutes in. So, let's
So
see.
for number 6, let's see. Find out more information about something that interested you from the chapter. So I thought this whole chapter, I feel like this whole like cognitive behavioral therapy and stuff, I feel like it's just really interesting. But
Yeah.
from this chapter, I found that distress, I don't know how to say it, the SIT training, the stress inoculation training.
Um,
Really,
you're fine.
I found it was interesting. Like it was just an interesting approach to therapy that focuses on like helping clients to develop coping skills and just managing stressful situations. And so it was interesting that it had 3 phases. Like it was a 3-phase model of conceptualization, skill acquisitions, and application. And
Hmm.
so it just really makes for like a well-structured and flexible like uh oh, I lost it. Anyways, it just makes for like a really well flexible like um model for clients and stuff and their needs. And so um let's see. I feel like it's also like an exposure based approach. And so I think that there needs to be like a lot of care taken because you can't really
Hmm.
push them too far, too
Right.
fast, or too soon. You kind of like got to see where they're at and stuff. And so I think that's something really important to know. And I think that like it blends a lot of like cognitive behavioral therapy
Hmm.
strategies and stuff and just gradual exposure within supporting relationships. So it seems like common sense to help build resilience through like
Yeah.
learning to better ride stress and stuff. And so I was reading somewhere and I wish I would have written down where I was reading it, trying to find an article, but that like SIT was found effective in performance of anxiety and like speaking fears and just trauma recovery. And so I did find a different article on SIT and just like its outcomes on veterans with PTSD.
Oh,
And
okay.
so it was found to reduce like PTSD and depression systems like before and after treatment. And so even the veterans found significant improvement and stuff in their ability to manage stress, anxiety, anger, concentration, relaxation, and stuff. And they were like more eager to engage in like those kinds of activities or treatment. So they found it really good for coping skills. I thought that was really interesting.
It is. I really like the like exposure approach. I feel like when it's done correctly, like done at the right time when the client's ready, I feel like the exposure approach is really beneficial and works really well for a lot of
Yeah,
different like disorders and
I feel like it's interesting, but I feel like you have to know what you're doing,
oh
because
yeah, like if you do it wrong at all, like if the therapist does it too fast or like too like pushes too hard or like the client's not ready, like it could go wrong, I feel like so easily. Like because it could just
yeah.
set someone back if they like are exposed to something when they're not ready, it could set them back really quickly.
Oh yeah. But other than that, I do think it's like a really interesting approach also. So, but
I at the end of the video he started talking about how CBT is now kind of getting, I can't think of the word, like combined with other sorts of treatment. And so I was kind of looking into that a little bit, and I found like mindfulness CBTs, like MCBT. And I looked it up and I actually found like a TED talk about a guy that was talking about like the mindfulness approach. And let's see, that when you combine like mindfulness with like when you're trained in mindfulness, it activates part of the brain that they call like the executive control network, and um, it like evaluates what you need to do with the feelings you're having, and then oh sorry, when you have no training within the mindfulness, that's the only part of the brain that's activated. It's like, what do I need to do? I'm feeling this way. Like, what is my body going to do? What do I need to do? And then when you're trained with the mindfulness, it activates part of the I forget what it's called. Another part of the brain.
It's kind of like making you aware and stuff, right?
Yeah, it's oh sorry. So it oh yeah, so it like strengthens the insula, which activates the let's see. Oh yeah, so it activates like the signals from the body to be like more attuned. And so then when you have like that mindfulness training, when the control network is activated and then you also have the insula activated, it like creates this balance, which has shown to um, like reduce those depression symptoms. So right now MCBT is used for people who are like have recovered from depression, and like it's supposed to help prevent like the relapse of it. So it's like the after treatment, combining the CBT with mindfulness, it's supposed to like prevent like the relapse or the depression from coming back. So when you feel those feelings, you have the like the balance from the two parts of the brain coming together instead of one just like the overreactive, like what am I doing? I'm feeling this way. So yeah.
That's really interesting. I wonder like um what's it called? Like if that would work for like people who have PTSD also, like helping them just maintain like their, their episodes that they might
Right.
have.
Yeah.
That'd be
I feel like it could
interesting.
work with like depression, anxiety, PTSD, just a lot of those where like when you start to like have anxiety or you're being like triggered by something, like having another part of your brain like be strengthened and activated to kind of like this is actually what you're
Yeah.
feeling, not just like the attacking, like you're feeling this, what do you do? Kind of thing.
Yeah. No, that's interesting that it creates that balance. I would have never even thought of that.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I just like looked up mindfulness CBT and it brought me to some website and I just like watched the TED talk and read about it. It's really interesting.
Hmm. I'll have to look into that. I don't have anything else.
Me neither. And we're good on time.
We're good? Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Perfect.